Every revolution starts in the minds of the people.
Arm yourself for the war of ideas. Take back your life. Take back your liberty. Tom Mullen Talks Freedom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tom Mullen Talks Freedom. Happy Thanksgiving weekend to all. Today, I'm very happy to have as my guest AJ Rice. What can I say about this guy? AJ is America's publicist and the undisputed GOAT of conservative public relations. The guy works with everybody. He seems to know everybody. And if you notice some of the great guests that we have had on the show over the past few years, AJ's helped with a lot of, or most of them. And he's also an author. He publishes the Publius National Post on Substack. You may remember that he was here for his previous book, his #1 Amazon bestseller, The Woking Dead, How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. Well, he's got a new one out, and it's called The White Privilege Album, Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. AJ, thanks so much for joining me. Welcome to the show.
Brother Tom, great to be here. You know, big shout out to the very fine people. I know they're in this audience, right? The GOAT is in the house. The GOAT is in the house. The GOAT's in the house, brother. So let's do it.
You know, we've exchanged some emails, but I haven't talked to you since the election. So before we get to this hilarious book, what did you think when the election results came in and even the mainstream legacy media were declaring for Donald Trump the night of election? What was going through your mind?
Well, I mean, look, you know, the American people can smell a phony. They can smell a phony. They can see a grifter. You know, it's a 100-day grift that went on here. $1.5 billion that went up in smoke. They just lit it all on fire. They brought out the Steve Buscemi wood chipper from the movie Fargo, and they just threw it in there. Just threw it in there. I mean, I don't know where it went. I don't recall Barack Obama having to pay off Oprah or Lizzo or J-Lo or Gaga or Katy Perry or any of the other, you know, schmuckinskis out there. But they all got a little taste. They all got a little taste. She's apparently now in the hole, 20 mil, maybe more. I don't know. I'm not shocked. I feel like the media kind of felt it, you know, because I don't see Antifa and BLM and the pig pussy hat girls, and they're not in the streets yet. Maybe they will be in January, right? Once he starts doing the things he said he was going to do. But it look, from my perspective, from Publius PR's perspective, it was a gigantic shining moment because, you know, we represent the interests of Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. We also represent the interests of RFK Jr. So we do his books. We do the media for his super PAC. His publisher is our client, which is Skyhorse Books. And then Donald Trump Sr. and Jr. and a man who's quite a genius named Sergio Gore, they own a little imprint called Winning Team Publishing, which I'm sure of the audience has seen those Donald Trump coffee table books that he puts out. They publish those. They also publish Charlie Kirk, Peter Navarro, Judge Jeanine Pirro, MTG, and Carrie Lake. Well, I'm their publicist too. So, you know, being at the center of the MAGA cinematic universe, which is what Publius PR is, it was quite the feat. It was quite, you know, I don't know whether my career is peaking here, but you know, it's an unbelievable thing. And Tom, you don't know this, but look, I've been here in the swamp for 20 years. And because I'm a state school kid, because I'm a Northeast Philadelphia Catholic that's a wise ass, the fancy kids, you know, they fear me now. And they should. They should fear me. Okay? Because I'm handing out toe tags. But when I got here, I had to fight my way through a lot of prep school, you know, fancy kids to become the executive producer of the Laura Ingraham show first. And then, you know, I work with Monica Crowley. I work with a lot of people as a producer of shows. And then on the PR side, I got to tell you, this town would have been happy if American politics, I mean, Obama shocked them a little bit. He did before he became a company man. He shocked them when he beat Hillary in that primary in '08. But this town would have been very happy handing the presidency back and forth from Bush Sr. to Bill Clinton to W, Bush 43, back to Hillary, back to Jeb, right? But, you know, they would have been fat and happy. They would have liked it. Obama disrupted some of that. And obviously, the greatest disruptor in political history, who has now won twice because of their foolishness, with a little interlude in between. I mean, you're going to get 12 years. Look, you're going to get 12 years of this now. You could have had only 8. He would be leaving now.
Right.
Donald Trump would be leaving now, because if Lincoln was the great emancipator and Reagan was the great communicator, Donald Trump is the great disruptor. So if you want to ask how Publius PR is feeling, here's how we're feeling. Half of his cabinet that he is selecting, and we could go down the list, have come from my PR firm. We have worked with them in some capacity. And I already mentioned Trump Jr. and RFK Jr., but there's a whole list. And you know why they're being picked? Tulsi, who's ours? Hegseth, who's ours? Congressman Michael Waltz, who's ours? Scott Bessent, which you know this story, is ours. So they're being picked because they are disruptors too. They're being sent. And Gates was, first guy through the door takes all the bullets. So you know what you're going to get now? You're going to get Pam Bondi, okay? Which you should be more afraid of than Gates. Okay, she was an attorney general of a giant state. And Gates, I don't think he practiced law in a long time. So look, these are disruptors. You know why? Because the fish rots from the head, yes. You got to remove the tops of these departments, but he removed the tops of these departments before. And he made some, establishment mistakes there in the first term with the Tillersons and the Mad Dog Maddox and all these other, schmucks that ended up with jobs, but they only lasted about 9 months, because you need to drop a bunker buster on these departments. This is a goddamn bunker buster. It's bunker buster time, mofo. Because you got to go 10 layers down. You've heard everyone say it. You've heard Stephen Miller say it. You've heard Kash Patel say it. You've heard my boy Peter Navarro say it. Bunker buster. Because remember, the perfect phone call, which was with the grifter in the green pajamas, the man in the green pajamas, who's now got, missiles, apparently, from, Uncle Diaper. The Zelensky phone call, what got him in trouble on that Zelensky phone call? It was the middle management that was listening. The middle management in the executive branch is always listening. So, say bye-bye, middle management. I saw the Texas land commissioners got this compound getting ready. No, I'm joking. That's just that's not for career bureaucrats. That's for illegal aliens. That's for MS-13. I'm joking, okay? But I will tell you, you gotta go all the way down. Otherwise, you're just gonna have some more nonsense being leaked to Axios and Politico and all the other people that lost their virginity when they were 30.
Let me ask you this, because you mentioned, being from State College, and you got to fight through, I don't know what you call it, the meritless elite class to get on the map. I've been thinking about this the last few days. I mean, Trump, he did have the Ivy League degree. He had money. You look at these old videos of him like on Oprah, and he's basically saying all the same things 40 years ago as he said when he ran the first time, and it wasn't a problem then. What made them hate him so much this time around? I have my own theory that I'd like to believe, but what do you think is the main motivator for the ridiculous hatred?
Sure.
And then let me also say that first term, he wasn't talking about abolishing all these departments and firing all these bureaucrats, just running them better. So what is it that's the main motivation here?
Well, so back to what I was talking about before. So when the OG came down the golden escalator, a lot of the PR firms here in DC And there's GR firms too. People need to understand what they are. They're government relations firms that exist in the butt crack of lobbying and favoritism and, horse trading. All right. So there's both of them. And before he started decapitating 18 Republicans there in the 16 primary, they thought this was a joke. They thought it was a temporary thing. So, the Bush people with the red W, branded on their forehead, and the heroes that were captured and the heroes that weren't captured, and Mitt Romney's team in the magical underwear and the silos full of grain, they all threw in, okay, Joseph Smith and all, they all threw in with the 18 people running against Trump because they thought this was going to go away. This is why Joe and Mika and Anderson Cooper and these other left-wing media people were having such a good time there at the beginning of 15, right? He was still going on Howard. He was still going on The View. He was still going on Good Morning America. Joe and Mika liked him. Anderson Cooper's having a thoughtful discussion about how they both lost siblings, which they did. And then he starts winning. And the rallies get bigger. And he does not sign that. Because remember, I don't know whether the audience, historians will recall this someday. Most of the media thought he was doing this because he had teased it before. Most of the media thought he was doing this to promote the next season of The Apprentice, Celebrity Apprentice, right? They thought it was a gag, but it was no gag, and he's no Grover Cleveland. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, you've got the man of the era here. You've got the disruptor for the biggest disruptor since probably Teddy Roosevelt, right? And look, I think when Clapper and Brennan went up to the tower, they waved to Kanye and Bannon in the lobby. They go up to the tower, and this is, I think, when the blackmail happens. This might be why Reagan and Kennedy were shot. I don't know. It's certainly why the radical community organizer from Chicago went from this insurgent to company man. Because what I think happens is, and I'm pretty sure this happened. We have a lot of intelligence people that write books that come here. I think the threat matrix, the PIST dossier, Crossfire Hurricane, I think Clapper and Brennan put everything in front of him. And he said this. He did this. Because this is the moment when they all fall in line. The Catholic from Boston, the California Mafia, which is what they called Reagan and Meese and Cap Weinberger and Deaver and all Reagan's guys. That's what Baker and the head of the CIA, Bush Sr., the head of the CIA, Bush 41, that's what they called Reagan's people. Okay? So sound familiar? Yeah, okay. So Trump, because he's the only person other than a general that had never served in some type of elected capacity prior to being president. He's the only one. Everyone else had been elected something, right? Senator, governor. We had, I think, one congressman. I think it was a Benjamin Harrison or William Henry Harrison, one of them, and one of the Harrisons. And obviously the generals, Washington, Zachary Taylor, Grant, Eisenhower, right? So, and I'm probably forgetting some, but, the reality there is that they thought they had him because he's been this private citizen. So they put whatever the hell they put there that I think they've been using since, right, to rein him in. And this is might be a billionaire guy, but this is a blue collar, hard hat guy. This is an I-beam guy. It's a guy that'll stick an I-beam up your rear end. It's funny. I watched a special on Fox. It was about the mob. And it was one of these guys that worked for Gotti that has been out there, Sonny something. It'll come to me here in a second. And he was talking about when Trump ran the casinos in Atlantic City, how the mob, the five families, would send enforcers to go up to the tower to try to get deals, to try to get shakedowns, to make sure there weren't confidential informants working at the Trump Taj Mahal, to get anything they could possibly get from this man. Sonny Gravano, I think.
Yeah.
And forgive me, I'm Catholic, okay? So if I got the wrong eye tie, I'm sure someone will correct me at some point. All right? I'm Irish, so you guys are all the same to me. No, I'm joking. So half my family. And they couldn't flip him. They could not flip him. The mob couldn't flip him. I don't know what, we're going to do this and we're going to give you cement shoes and it is, I don't know what they did. But if they can't flip him, you think dorky ass Clapper and Brennan and Comey, the stiff, you think they're going to flip him? So because he didn't flip, this is why you've seen all this BS for a decade. Obama had one of the greatest moments in history during this debate with Hillary and John Edwards when, and this is when he was a, Reverend Wright, the Weather Underground, right? He's hanging out with Farrakhan at the barbecue. So this is when Obama was the insurgent that wasn't supposed to be there. When Bill Clinton was talking to Ted Kennedy, he goes, where does this black guy come from? He should be getting us coffee. Remember that? He said that. This guy should be getting us coffee. He should be our intern. He should be shining our shoes. That's what the first black president said about the second black president. Anyway, so, I'm just thinking to myself, this guy's not going to flip. If you I don't know what happened to Obama, but Obama's in this debate, and he says to Hillary that she was just say something nice about your opponents. Remember that stupid thing? And he said something like, well, if Hillary's wearing the Barbie movie outfit, she's wearing one of those pink pantsuit numbers that you can see from Freaking Space, and he says, well, she's likable enough. She's likable enough. And I got to tell you, this is the most unlikable woman in 100 years. Obama's dunking on her like Kobe. And, if you watch this last election cycle, turns out that Kamala Harris is actually more unlikable than the most unlikable woman in 100 years. So I think there was some, whether I liked it or not, Obama had some authenticity, whether it was contrived. Now, a lot of people say it was contrived, that he was this composite. And if you go through his books and his teacher, and you look at like what Axelrod and what they were calling him the one, and with, the soaring rhetoric. Look, I'm a marketing guy. People bought the product. The product fell apart when you put it on the road, right? It was like a Volkswagen Rabbit or like a Yugo or a Pinto or something. But the point is, they sold it. People bought it twice. There are thousands of counties, thousands, that voted for Obama twice and Trump 3 times. So look, the American people, they like authentic characters. They do. They know if you're a studio gangster. Kamala Harris is a studio gangster, right? I'm black. I'm Indian. I like jerk chicken. I make samosas at home. I like green curry and red curry and all the curries except Steph Curry, right? I'm the black Steph Curry, right? So, but the point is this: people could smell a phony. They could see through her. Barack Obama goes to Pittsburgh and he goes up to the brothers. So here he is, this guy who now lives in 3 of the whitest neighborhoods in America, and he's talking to this room full of Steelers fans, and he's lecturing them on Kamala and authenticity. And he goes up to the brothers and he says, listen, brothers, I hear that you don't want to vote for a woman, but you need to vote for her. Even Barack, he's like a Key and Peele episode. He goes, you need to vote for her because she's from the neighborhood. She's from the neighborhood. All right, brothers, she's from the neighborhood. Now, let's pause for a second there, okay? What neighborhood is she from? Because I know, is she from the Marin County neighborhood? Is she from this fancy neighborhood in Toronto when her mom went to McGill University? Because every once in a while, because Barack says she's from the neighborhood, in that debate with Biden, she said she was in a forced busing situation, right? But yet when she's standing there with Trump, she says, I come from a middle-class family. So so you understand what I'm saying here? So like, for those who don't know, when gangster rap and hip hop was born in New York and then migrated west, most of the rappers you saw, there were some exceptions. They really were from the neighborhood, and they were taking street knowledge. I don't care whether it's Nas or Ice Cube. They were taking, or Wu-Tang. They were taking street knowledge, and they were becoming poets behind the microphone with beats, and they were sampling things. And then hip hop started to go more mainstream, and this term pops up amongst each other, one rapper versus another, called a studio gangster, meaning you have you grew up in the suburbs in a McMansion, Westchester County or Fairfax County, Virginia, wherever the hell it is, and you're not really from the street, right? So that's what she is. And I think not just the brothers, whether they're in Atlanta, Philly, or Detroit, she lost a lot of people because of lack of authenticity and merit. Merit. Americans don't like people to jump the line. They want you to earn it. And you could be a billionaire or a pauper. Barack Obama didn't have that much money when he came to run. Bill Clinton lived in a trailer park, right? Jimmy Carter, peanut farmer, he had a lot of money. Trump had money. Reagan had money. Trump and Reagan were also former Democrats. So you have this situation where African Americans, they still voted Democrat, but Trump got the bigger chunk of them than Reagan and Eisenhower. And then, she somehow managed to lose Jews in New York State, Jews in Pennsylvania, Jews in Virginia, and also simultaneously win all the Muslims in Michigan, in Dearbornistan. Okay? So you're talking about, so the subtitle of the book is Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. Donald Trump just brought racial harmony to two groups of people that are trying to kill each other over October 7th. And then you have this blue wall come down. Yes, but I'll direct your audience to a second blue wall. There was a second blue wall. The second blue wall that fell was one that runs from Brownsville, Texas to El Paso, which every county along the Texas-Mexico border was a blue county. They are all now red counties. And might I add, they are not filled with Scandinavians. Okay? So, this idea, every 6 years, Ted Cruz is going to lose. Oh, okay. Ted Cruz is going to lose, right. To Beto O'Rourke and this latest stiff, Ted Cruz is never going to lose. So it turns out when Hispanics who never get divorced, are Catholic, never have abortions, and are escaping some Marxist Latin dump, most likely, when they get to Texas, they want to be Texas too. They want to be American too. So they get there, they put on the freaking hat, and they vote for Ted Cruz too. So this idea that you're going to turn Texas blue, every couple years we hear this crap. Soros is lighting his money on fire down there because Trump just overwhelmingly. Why do you think he just flipped Nevada? Arizona is a blowout. Texas, Ted Cruz. Are you kidding me? So great job, Democrats. You're importing Catholic, pro-life, right-wingers because you're afraid that at any minute the blacks will leave you. Well, guess what? They're both leaving you.
Yeah, and let me say something about that. Yeah. Number one, just to drop an editorial comment, being a libertarian podcast, sure. Grover Cleveland is our number one president of all time. So
well, I thought Calvin Coolidge was.
No. Grover Cleveland was a libertarian. Calvin Coolidge was a very good conservative, and one of the reasons we like him so much is that he resisted tremendous pressure to start the Spanish-American War, which the conservatives had wanted since Alexander Hamilton. And he said no. And that's just the beginning. But I'm getting to your book here. And I remembered you have a chapter called America's First Hip Hop President. And of course, that's not Barack Obama.
No.
And it just struck me when you said that we've got all these counties on the Mexican border in Texas. And of course, Trump's supposed to be the racist, but who is,
that's right.
Who is judging all people of Latina or Latino descent the same. It's the people who think that there's no diversity in their ideas.
That's
There's
right.
no, they all have the same ideas. They all want the same thing. And I think what we're seeing is the people who came here to be Americans, like my grandparents did from Egypt, despite my Celtic name,
Ireland.
my mother's, you know,
I've got two Irish grandparents and two German grandmothers, right? Grandfathers and grandmothers. Both my Irish grandfathers married German women, if you can believe it. So
yeah. So I
absolutely.
mean, what I was going to say is that I remember my grandmother's brothers. I mean, they were all, look how American I am. I want to be an American. This is the greatest
That's
country in
exactly
the
right.
world. I want to,
Exactly right.
freedom. And so there's a difference between the people who come for that reason and the people who come, for other reasons, who don't seem to like America even if they
Sure.
got here. And to judge them all the same, I mean, I hate to do that. Well, they're the real racists, but that's true.
Well, look, but think about this. So Obama's standing there in this room full of black guys that, that don't have amnesia and don't really remember him doing much for them except fundraising for his, library. And I mean, he couldn't even put a black person on the Supreme Court. He put two unmarried, childless cat ladies on the Supreme Court, right? Paging JD Vance. So, Taylor Swift fans, put them on the Supreme Court. He had a third shot there that Mitch McConnell blocked, thank God, old Foghorn Leghorn. It was the last good thing Foghorn Leghorn did, was stop the current attorney general, a white dude. Obama had three shots for put a black person on the Supreme Court. He never did it. I mean, the three black people that made it to the Supreme Court were put there by white people, including Joe Biden. So, but back to what you were just saying. So Obama's standing there in this room, and he's telling this group of black men that they might be sexist, they might be misogynist if they don't vote for Kamala. They need to vote their melanin, vote your skin color. This is what he's saying that, Mr. Standing there with a $2,000 suit, Brioni suit on, right? So, because it never occurred to him, like you just said, it never occurred to him that, that maybe black people remember what it was like before COVID, that maybe they're judging him in his presidency, and that maybe, I don't know, maybe they don't like $9 eggs. Maybe they don't like the entire third world being redistributed to their neighborhoods, right? Maybe they don't like a defunded police department. Maybe they don't like gas prices that are crazy. Maybe they don't like the Green New Deal. Maybe, they don't like policies and they remember Trump's policies and they're saying, I'm going with him. I don't have amnesia, pre-COVID amnesia. I want to go back to that, right? So, but this is the soft bigotry of low expectations. And that, when you talk about the hip hop presidency, Obama was on, and I write about it, he was on some podcast no one listens to, and he was talking about why black people or black rappers like Trump. And all he could come up with was the bling, okay, the drip game that Trump's in rap songs, everything's gold, he's macho, and black men get hypnotized by that. This is how Obama, the second black president, thinks about other black people. It gives you this freaking insight. It's never like, hey, my life sucks. Maybe Trump can make it better. Oh no. Oh no. Trump's got gold teeth. Trump's got, this is the craziness. You talk about, them being the bigots. I mean, even Barack thinks that way because he's got Hussein in the membrane, got Hussein in the brain.
So your book is split up into the chapters are actually all named after a month, and then you've got several sub chapters in each one.
Right.
Which it's ironic, of course. There's a month for everybody except for the people that you talk about in your title. Talk a little bit about the way the book is set up and where you go.
Well, yeah, it's the 12 months of privilege. So there's 12 chapters. Chapter 1's January. Chapter 11's November. And I go through an entire calendar year, pretty much writing the way I've been talking here for a half hour. Okay. So I don't pull any punches. I write the way I talk. We talk about American holidays, American traditions. We defend some of them. We dunk on others. We talk about all the different ways everything's racist. The Very Fine People make a couple appearances. The book was dedicated to the Very Fine People. And I know there's lots of very fine people watching now. I want to apologize to the Beatles for the title. although the cover was more inspired by Pink Floyd's The Wall. And as far as the Very Fine People go, you have to understand something. And I can't believe this has almost been a decade ago. I had no idea that the Very Fine People were going to show up in these presidential debates, but they did. They showed up. Biden brought it up, Kamala brought it up, and then Barack has been running around saying it too, that Donald Trump called the white supremacists in Charlottesville very fine people. Well, if you go to the tape, you go to the transcript, that is not what he did. There were actually 4 groups there. One of them was white nationalists. The other one that was given a permit by the dopey mayor, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and the Virginia Historical Society was there. They were trying to get this statue of Robert E. Lee moved off of public property to the Civil War Museum of Virginia, or Society of Virginia location, or a private location. And look, I'm a Northern guy. I'm a Union guy. So I'm a Navy uniform guy. But if a town wants to vote to change the name, or that's fine, right? A lot of this stuff does belong in museums. I'm not sure we should be renaming every school in America, Michelle Obama Elementary, but that's a debate for another day. I will say that the Very Fine People hoax, and that's what it was, became the foundational lie for almost 10 years now of Trump is a racist, Trump's Hitler, Trump's a fascist, Ultra MAGA. Remember Ultra MAGA, right? Extreme MAGA Republicans. The Kamala talking to Anderson Cooper. Yes, do you think he's a fascist? Yes, Anderson. Yes. He's Hitler. We got a Hitler rally at Madison Square Garden. I never saw more Israel flags at a Hitler rally in my life. Who would have thought Israel loved Hitler? Anyway, so look, it didn't work. They ran this entire campaign on abortion and Hitler. And, basically they subscribe to this idea that there's a patriarchy and white privilege and white supremacy infects everything, and toxic masculinity infects everything. Men need to take it down a notch. I mean, look, Joe Rogan, who's got anywhere between 15 to 25 million people per episode, asked Kamala to fly to Austin, and he would give her 3 hours to sit there and talk about whatever the hell she wants. She couldn't do it. She couldn't handle 25 minutes with Brett Baer. So I guess she's more afraid of Rogan than Brett Baer. But let me tell you what happened here. It wasn't just men rebelling, but men in general, of all colors, aren't really down with, the Hitler and abortion, campaign. And what you saw here was decades of really second, third, fourth wave feminists that have spent their entire life saying that men were either unnecessary at best or evil and toxic and could be a predator at worst. So, every woman on the planet has a father, or a brother, or a son. So, I don't think women necessarily want to hear that crap either. That's why when you look at a map, you go state by state or you go county by county, this is a red country with blue cities, blue islands. But Trump didn't just make the red states redder. He made the purple states redder. And he made even blue cities like New York, like the 5 boroughs of New York, redder. AOC sitting there scratching her head, the bartender head, and she's thinking to herself, wait a minute, there were thousands of people that went into the booth and they voted for both me and Trump? How could that be? Throw a bucket of water on her, watch her melt. I mean, but they did. You look at that map of California, my God. California is mostly red except for, the fancy places. The places where Kamala grew up, where they have forced busing. They have forced busing. So look, Trump has been given a gift here. He needs to not squander it. John Thune, the stiff, needs to get in line. And as a libertarian, and let me tell you this, some inside information. Because I represent the Mises Institute. I represent the National Motorist Association. And they both are very tied intricately to the Libertarian Party of the United States, who normally gets to have their little events, and maybe a candidate will show up here or there. And even Trump went there, and he had to dunk on the audience for booing him a little bit.
Well, let me just say,
but for the first time ever, let me just say this: the transition team is asking the Libertarian Party of the United States for recommendation. No party has ever done this. Democrat, Republican, they are being asked to put forth names, because when that bunker buster goes off, brother, like we talked about earlier, we're going to run out of people we can trust, and you got to go there. So it's not just the Cato Institute; it's all kinds of people are being asked to participate. Not just Ron Paul, the legend, but everyone. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, we've got a party with Bernie people, Tulsi people, RFK Jr. people, Ron Paul people, and we're all in the battleship together here. So I think that is freaking amazing. I can't believe it happened.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that in the Libertarian Party, we had our own internal war and mostly kicked out the establishment and took it over. But the people booing Trump like teenage liberal girls, that was the remnant of who's left over. So
Sure.
You're going to see less and less of those people. I appreciated Trump coming to speak to our party. And I'll just say this, that I think I may have mentioned it before on the podcast. I broke my 40-year perfect record of never having voted for a Republican or a Democrat. And on November 5th, I pulled the lever for Trump.
Wow.
Even though I'm in New York and it probably didn't make a difference.
New York got redder. New York got redder too. I mean, they got to be careful. I mean, I live in Virginia, and both Trump and Hung Cao, who's our client, who's running against Tim Kaine, I mean, the margins here got cut. I mean, Youngkin has created a machine here, and to get out the vote, I mean, he swung 9 percentage points from Biden to himself, and it swung back about 6.5. So Virginia, New Mexico, New Hampshire, Maine, I don't know about Colorado, but they could, if Trump continues to add to his multi-ethnic coalition. And look, you think the blacks in Richmond like Kamala? They do not. They do not. These are not African Americans that hang out at the Free Library of Philadelphia, right? These are NASCAR guys. Okay, these are guys that get up at 4 a.m. and they come home at 9 p.m. And they've had it. I think a lot of groups have had it, right? And a lot of groups don't like wokeism, and that's what my book's about. Both books, The Woking Dead and The White Privilege Album. I have some fun. They're comedic books. There's substance in there. Some of it's gallows humor. I mean, if Shakespeare can do tragedy and comedy, why can't I?
Well, I will tell you that I was thinking before we got on here that when you wrote this, it was going to be a protest book against the dominant culture. And I don't know, a year from now, this could be the mainstream or at least a contender, So
We'll
it is
see.
an excellent book. I'm going to have a link to it on the show notes page, of course. And hopefully this is another #1 bestseller for you. AJ, Thanks so much for coming on.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, we've hit #1 already in the political humor category, which is great because we were beating out, Deuce Bigalow and Bill Maher and Kat Timpf. And I will just leave you with this. Wokeism is cultural Marxism. It's been around 100 years. They're going to stop using terms like DEI and wokeism, but they're like termites. They're going to burrow in now, but in the future, they will reemerge. They'll have some new term that they'll use. The trans mafia is not going away. They're going to continue to try to whack people that don't let dudes into the women's bathroom. But something woke, Rick and woke this way comes. I mean, they will return. They're like a fever blister. So they're going to lick their wounds now. We'll see who shows up after Trump is inaugurated and he starts implementing his policies. The left never learns their lesson, which keeps guys like you and I in business.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you were talking about the statues, I've always said it's never changed since the French Revolution, and smashing the statues has been part of it. France, Russia, China, and here we are. Thanks again, AJ. Great book, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother. You have a good Thanksgiving, good holiday season, and maybe have yourself a white privilege album Christmas.
Thanks.
The war of ideas has only just begun. Arm yourself with the knowledge you need by heading to TomMullenTalksFreedom.com and subscribing to our email list. And remember, every revolution starts in the minds of the people.